Let us say I want to find the largest of three numbers. I'm going to show you one possible way to find the largest of three numbers. Let us say I have numbers A, B, and C with the values 10, 20, and 30 respectively. So if you take a look at this example, I'll show you how you can find the largest of three numbers. A is 10. 10 is greater than 20. This is false. Once this if is false, I don't go to the inside if. Since this is false, I will come to the else part. In the else part, I am checking is 20 greater than 30. This is also false. Since this if is false, the closest else is this fellow. So what happens is it's going to say C is the largest, which is correct, which happens to be 30. Now you need to understand a few things here. This else is associated with the closest if. This else is associated with its closest if. Automatically, when all the if and else's are covered, then you have this else which is joined with this if. When you have an if statement or a conditional statement followed by another conditional statement, this is an example of a nested if statement. So if you see, I have a condition here followed by a condition. Now, if you want to take a look at the syntax of this particular nested if, the right side you need to watch. So test condition 1 is what? A greater than B. Only if A is greater than B, I am going to go inside this next test condition, which says is A greater than C? If A is greater than B, greater than C, then A is the greatest, or automatically C is the greatest. Similarly, the else part is like this. If the number in the example I showed you, the else got executed. So the test condition was is B greater than C? False. So automatically this else got executed. So in this nested if you take a look at it, it is if followed by if is an example of a nested if statement. You may use nested if, but I would generally avoid it if possible because it makes sometimes the code a little difficult to read. But you need to understand one thing: if you properly indent it, that is, you leave spaces like this properly, then it's easy to understand which else is joined with which if. If you write it badly, then it's very difficult to figure out which else is associated with which if. Here I have used colors to differentiate which if is associated with which else. So red indicates this if is associated with this else. This if is associated with this else. This if is associated with this else. So only if this condition is true, it goes into this one, else it comes to this part. Now if you want to here, what you may notice here is you can see here I am doing the first condition. What is this first condition? This fellow, if A greater than C. So sorry, if A greater than B. If it is true, then I am going and checking the next condition, is A greater than C. Only if this is true, then I am saying A is the largest, else I am saying this statement where C is the largest. Now if the initial condition is false, then I go on this side. Here I am checking what is B greater than C. If it is true, B is the largest, else C is the largest. This statement will get executed. So this is the syntax of a nested if statement. So please take a look at this syntax. If you are asked to draw the syntax, it's preferably easier or more logical to draw a diagram. Then represent it using the return statement. The choice is really yours. You may use the diagram or you may use the return statement on your right side, which is here. Now, before we discuss the switch case, I would point out to an example using a switch case, and then we'll go about looking at the syntax. As I tell you, it's much easier to understand a concept, the theory behind the concept, when you take a look at an example and then jump to the theory. Let us say we give numbers to the day of the week, or we number days of the week. So given an input number, we want to print what day of the week it is. So if you see here, this switch is a keyword, this case is a keyword. This one represents the number assigned to the day of a week. Each of these numbers, if you see, happens to be an integer number. It's not a real number like 1.0 and all. So what I'm doing is, let's say I enter the day number here as 4. So what? 4 matches 1? No. 4 matches 2? No. 4 matches 4? Yes. So 4 is going to print as Thursday. The reason I have a break is after it prints Thursday, it should come out here to this flower bracket. Now, let's say I get a little naughty and I enter the number 10. Now, when I enter number 10, 10 does not match any of these labels. So automatically it will come to the default statement. The default is also a special word and it will say invalid day number. I do not have a break here because this is the last statement. Automatically it's going to come to the flower bracket. So what this switch case does is it takes this input value, switches it and matches it with any of the cases whose value matches with this particular day number. If the value matches of this day number with any of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it executes only that particular statement. Just in case you decide to take a graph to see, I'm showing you a graphical look of the switch case. So what is happening here is case label 1. In our case, it was case 1, case 2, case 3 and default. Here you have the switch expression. In our case, what was the expression? It was the day number. Okay, so this is the normal way of depicting it. That is the textual way. And in this is the graphical way. Is expression. What was our expression? Day number. Day number had to match one of these labels. Okay, these labels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Default was invalid date was entered. So what will happen is the day number will enter here through the switch. Then it will go through each of these cases. Whichever cases the label matches, the label can be 1, 2, 3, 4. So whichever case the label matches, it is going to execute those particular corresponding statement. Suppose the day number was 2, it would execute statement 2 as Tuesday. So suppose the day was 7, it would have printed the day as maybe Sunday. So this is how things go along with the switch case expression. So just to refresh the syntax of the switch case, you can take a look at one more. You have switch followed by the expression. Expression in our case was day number. Case, switch, these are all special and default. These are all keywords. You should not type anything in place of them. Label 1 was 1, label 2 was 2, label 3 was 3, label n was default, sorry, label n was not there, was 7 and default was the last statement. So after each statement you have the break. So this is an example of a multi-way branch or a switch statement. Sometimes this is preferable to using an if else if because this is more elegant and neat to use. Whatever things I have discussed so far, all these constructs will be explained in detail in chapter number 10 in your syllabus of first year, where I'm going to talk about control statements. They were going to do a number of examples theoretically as well as typing in through a live demo, and your understanding of all these constructs is going to be much more clear. So if you don't understand everything of it, panic not, because you'll really get a hang of it once you do a number of examples.